So we're not quite ready to go on the record yet, but in the matter of Mason Brooks, the report says that Sherry Hunt is the caseworker, but I don't see her in the waiting room. Is somebody else filling in for her today? Do you know, Kelly?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think what I sent you is that it may be Pamela Freeberg or Jenna Freeman.
I think Pamela is the adoption worker. And let me see if Jenna Freeberg is, a lot of people signed in here. Let's see. No, I don't see either one of them. Ms. Freeberg, have you had contact with any other DHS worker on this file?
I did have contact with the foster care worker about 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't heard from her, and so I contacted her supervisor and let her know of the hearing today.
Do you know the supervisor's name?
Madison Banks.
Let me see if she's in here. No, I've got one device. Let me see who that. Oh, that's probably you, Shannon.
Yeah, that should be.
All right, let me let you in. Sorry. I forgot. All right. And you'll be able to see the screen.
Yep.
Okay, Shannon, put us on the record, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is a post-term for Mason Brooks. And let's see. Mr. Williams is LGAL, it appears. Ms. Pamela Freeberg is present as the adoption worker, and it does not appear that I have a foster care caseworker or supervisor, but I do have a report, so I think we can go ahead and proceed. So let me hear, Mr. Williams, how is Mason doing?
Mason continues to do well in his placement, Your Honor. No concerns.
And Ms. Freeberg, are we making good progress towards adoption?
Yes, I'm just waiting for consent from MCI, and I do have a home visit scheduled this afternoon to sign legal paperwork, so that once the consent is received, then everything will be ready to be filed at court.
All right, so the report indicates anticipated finalization in May. Does that appear realistic?
Yes.
All right. Well, I will implement your recommendations. We will set a post term for June 29th at 8:45 if necessary. Hopefully, we will be able to finalize this well before then. Anything else the court needs to address today?
Not for me, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And it looks like Mr. Brown and his client are back. Let's go back on the Donahue minors. And I see the mother is present. Let me get her in the room. And let's see.
For a worker, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, I didn't see Donahue on your list. So who's the worker?
Yeah, I didn't know if we would go on the record for it. It is Haley Bordeaux.
Okay, I see her.
Okay.
Okay, this is the matter of Joseph and Alexander Donahue. Mr. Hotchkiss is LGAL. Ms. Tucker is here on behalf of the agency. The worker, Haley Bordeaux, is also present. Excuse me. Mr. Brown is present, as well as his client, Mr. Donahue, and Ms. Patricia Donahue is also present. I think that's our cast of people on this file. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So this matter is, let's see. Oh, I see there's an amended petition in the file. Has everyone received a copy of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Okay, and we are currently scheduled to move forward for trial and disposition as to Mr. Donahue on May 11th at 1 p.m. Is there anything the court needs to address today?
Judge, I haven't went through it yet, the discovery. The only thing that I do not see that I have is a police report. I'm just requesting that Ms. Tucker provide that to me. We're a month away. If I have it within 2 weeks, that should be sufficient.
Your
Further,
Honor, the police report is not complete yet. I believe they're trying to interview your client before completing the report.
well, you can tell them that he is represented by counsel and there will be no interview. So that should sum up the report.
Okay, thank you.
I would inquire also of the caseworker, Patricia Donahue, what their thoughts are on proceeding to terminating Mr. Donahue's parental rights.
So you want me to tell you if I want his rights terminated?
Correct.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Hotchkiss?
Thank you. Yeah, I spoke with Miss Donahue, and I've spoken about the children. They're doing well in their placement. They've expressed no desire whatsoever. I should couch that. The eldest expresses no desire to speak or see their father whatsoever. The youngest is, I suppose the term would be wishy-washy in his desire to see his father. I would leave any sort of resolution into the court's discretion, but as the LGL on this matter, I would have to advocate with the pursuing of the termination. Thank you.
Okay, well, you've got your date. Assuming all the discovery is provided promptly, would expect to move forward with the trial on May 11th at 1 p.m. Anything else the court needs to address today?
No, Judge.
No, Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
Okay, thank you. I need to take a very short break. I'll be right back.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Donahue, we are done. You can log out.
Oh, okay.
Remember your telephone number. Get that to me as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up is Dakota Johnson. And let me see. Put Ms. Jennings in. Okay, next up is post term for Dakota Johnson. Mr. Brown is LGAL. We've got Joy Jennings. Do we have a adoption worker assigned?
That should
Yes.
be Brenda
Yes.
too.
Okay, and let me bring her in. I think that's everybody. Make sure we got a connection with her. Okay, so Dakota Johnson. Mr. Brown, how is Dakota doing?
Very well. Dakota's placed with maternal grandmother who's adopted several of Dakota's siblings. Dakota's doing very well. That's why this case is kind of went fairly quickly. I'm hopeful that the anticipated adoption date can be realized by June because she's already went through that process. Doing very well. There should be no hiccups in this case. I want to also notify Miss Carroll that I sent my affidavits via mail on Friday, so they should reach her any moment. Thank you. I'm in support of the plan.
Thank you. Ms. Jennings or Ms. Tu, do either of you have anything to add to your reports?
No updates, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Finalization could in fact occur in early June?
Yes, Your Honor. I think that's a very realistic goal.
Good. All right, I will set a review date for June 29th at 8:45 if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Okay, next up is Doris Lafitte or Lafitte. And let's see, we've got Courtney Ross. And I don't see her. And Chelsea Gordy. I've got a Chelsea Kirkpatrick.
Your Honor, I had a difficult time locating, for whatever reason, I didn't have the latest report. So I had a difficult time locating who the workers were. Those were the names on the last report that I had in the.
And I'm looking at the current reports. Well, we need to have somebody here. The only name I'm seeing is Courtney Ross, and I do not see her in the waiting room. You scroll through one.
Let me see. Do you have a Sarah Britton by chance? She's the one that actually sent the report. I don't know if she.
Yeah, I'm not seeing either of those names. I guess I could just try letting everyone in. What agency is this?
That's what I was just looking at too.
Adoption agency is Child and Family Charities.
Right.
And I do not see any other name associated with the file. We've got a MDHHS monitor, Dana Poliziani, but she's not here. I wouldn't have expected her anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just going to let everybody in. Let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, I hope to let everybody into the court hearing because we're missing workers on the matter of Doris Lafitte. Is anyone present on this matter?
That is me, sir.
Andrea Bernard. Okay, your name didn't show up on any of the reports, so we weren't able to connect you.
I am standing in for Courtney Ross, who is the foster care worker and adoption worker.
All right, well, I'm glad we did this. The rest of you, obviously, if it's not your file, if you could keep your microphones muted so we don't get any interference. Okay, so a matter of Doris Lafitte, is it Lafitte or Lafitte?
I believe it's Lafitte.
Okay, and let's see, we have Ms. McCluskey is LGAL.
Correct, Your Honor.
Ms. McCluskey, how is Doris doing?
Doing very, very well. Yeah, growing, meeting milestones. He's in a great placement with an actual sibling. So I have no concerns. His placement goes above and beyond to meet his needs. So he's doing really well. No issues at all really at this time. He's doing speech therapy early on services and progressing really well. Sounds like there's a competing party possibly that has popped up, and I think those frustrate us generally because they usually just delay the matter. But it sounds like it is a grandparent that's not appropriate at all. So there's no chance of the agency okaying this competing party, but hopefully it doesn't add a lot of time to finalization, which I believe should be, I think the agency indicated to placement maybe next month. So I've read the report. I'm in agreement with the goal of adoption. Thank you.
Ms. Bernard, do you have anything to add?
Ms. Ross, the adoption worker, stated that she was going to give the grandmother until next week to submit her paperwork in order to even be considered for adoptive placement. She's been very slow to respond. It is likely that she's going to recommend, adoption worker is going to recommend this foster placement for adoptive placement.
Very well. I will implement the recommendations. We'll set our next review hearing for June 29th at 8:45. Thank you. Okay, next up we have the Russell and Rochefort minors. Ms. McCluskey is LGAL, and I will let the workers identify themselves for the record on this file.
Lindsay Cooling, foster care case manager.
Leanna Scott, adoption worker.
Ms. McCluskey, how are these children doing?
Well, we'll start with Rain. Rain's doing well. He's also growing and hitting milestones, and it sounds like the environment is a little calmer now that David's been moved, so the family's doing well. He's also in a great placement, so I have no concerns. And so David has obviously recently been moved. We've had lengthy discussions. There's a lot going on with David. I spoke with placement. It does sound like the behaviors have gotten a lot worse recently. So this is a maternal grandmother who has been in David's life since I believe around 9 months. It just couldn't take placement because she was caring for her ailing mother at the time. So nothing negative about the placement. I have some concerns that this placement is going to be able to handle David's behaviors. She did indicate she hopes he grows out of them. And I think we're all aware that that's not likely in these cases. Of course, they can get better with a lot of care and treatment and services, but I think she's not really grasping the gravity of what she's getting into, and not for lack of wanting. She sounds like a lovely person, and I think she really wants to do the right thing and care for David, and she may be able to, but I'm getting the indication that there could be problems. But Lindsay's wonderful. I think the agency will do everything they can to give her the support she needs, but they're also it sounds like a transitionary period right now where the services haven't necessarily kicked in with the new placement. So that could be part of the problem. She did indicate that other than, there have been a few instances, of course, at school, but other than that, he's doing fairly well at school. They put a behavioral 504 in place to support him in that regard, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of negative behavior going on at school, which is good. She said he seems to actually really enjoy it, but So I'm hoping once the services get up and running, that, you know, that household will get the support it needs for David. It does sound like they're taking him for an intake today for a psychiatric evaluation, or to see a psychiatrist also. So I've reviewed the report. I'm in agreement with the recommendations. Thank you.
Ms. Scott and Ms. Cooling, is our sibling visits taking place?
Yes, they are, Your Honor. Placements are actually family members, I guess we could say. So sibling visits have been happening about every other week, and the relative placements arrange that. It's been reported to me the visits between the two siblings are actually going very well. I think the separation for David and him being in his own placement where he gets to be kind of the primary kiddo has really helped him to adjust to having a new brother. I did also want to acknowledge that what Ms. McCluskey said, David has had a delay in services due to the placement change. However, we are getting him started in individual play therapy through Highfields, as well as a wraparound worker. So we are getting as many services in the home as possible to make sure all of his needs are being met.
Thank you. Ms. Scott, do you have anything to add?
Just that I did get the referral on March 30th. I sent out the intent to adopt on April 1st. I was able to see both of the boys on April 8th and do the adoption orientations with them. I have an anticipated adoption date for Rain, July. And then for David, it'll be a couple months later just because he just changed placements and we don't want to rush that. So I would say probably September at the earliest.
Very well. We will set our next review hearing for June 29th at 9 a.m. and your recommendations are all being implemented. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, Brooklyn and Aaron Reyes. Mr. Kelly is LGAL. And if I could have the workers identify themselves for the record, please.
This is Maria Kleckner, and I'm present as both the foster care case manager and the adoption caseworker. Mr.
Kelly, how are Brooklyn and Aaron doing?
They're doing very well, Your Honor. Spoke with placement. There are no concerns there. I've reviewed the report. I'm in agreement with the ultimate adoption. Thank you.
And let's see, I'm looking at a projected adoption date in September. Does that appear realistic?
Yes, I believe we can finalize, or we could file for placement sooner than that, but the kids do have to be living in the home for 6 months before we can finalize, and they moved to this placement on March 26th. So hopefully we can finalize by the end of September.
All right, well, I will be implementing the recommendations and we'll hold our next review hearing June 29th at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Kyle and Caleb Van Horn. Mr. Kelly again is LGAL, and if the workers could please identify themselves.
Lindsay Cooling, foster care case manager.
And Mr. Kelly, how are Kyle and Caleb doing?
They're doing well, Your Honor. I spoke with Caleb. He's telling me about his newborn daughter. She's about a month and 2 weeks old. Says she's sleeping for about 3 hours at a time, has her days and nights mixed up, but he's enjoying every minute of it. He says he has a job where he could under the table, but verifiable employment is requested, so he's working on that. Says his brother is doing well, so I have no concerns there, Your Honor. I've reviewed the report, have no objection to the recommendations.
And Ms. Cooling, anything to add?
I do not have anything to add, Your Honor.
Very well. I will implement the recommendations. We'll see you back here on June 29th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Next up is King Hamby. And let's see, Ms. McCluskey's LGAL. And if the workers could please identify themselves for the record.
Mallory Olson, Family and Community Services, Foster Care.
Alyssa Porofsky, Family and Community Services, Adoption Worker.
Ms. McCluskey, how's King?
I reached out to placement and I left a message with a gentleman that answered the phone for placement. I didn't receive a return call. I was not able to reach her. I have spoken to her in the past, so I think that was kind of out of the ordinary. So I was not able to get in touch with placement, but I have reviewed the report. I have no objection to the recommendations. Thank you.
And workers, do you have anything to add to your reports?
No.
No.
What's our anticipated adoption date?
I have September on the court report. The family is not licensed, so we are working through the 3130, and we submitted fingerprints to DCWL February 16th, and we have not received those results yet.
Anything else to add? Thank you. Our next review hearing then will be June 29th at 9 a.m. Okay, and the last of our post terms is Kingsley Klute. Mr. Brown is LGAL, and if the workers could please identify themselves.
Yes, Lauren Ravensky, Adoption Worker, Lutheran Adoption Service.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michael Mangeni, Foster Care Manager from Samaritas.
All right, and I also see that Kingsley's foster parents are present. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Brown, how is Kingsley doing?
Very well, Judge. I spoke with placement last week. This is a case where we have several competing parties because of the agency's initial gaffe and not even attempting to get a hold of Kingsley's siblings who were adopted here in Jackson County. So it's created kind of a mess. Both parties seem to be wonderful people, wonderful families, but this case is going to be a mess through no fault of anyone involved in this case right now. But minor child's doing well, and I have no concerns. Thank you.
And either worker have anything to add to your reports?
No, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. I would just like to point out to the court that we're having a little trouble getting Kingsley's social security number. We just received an email this morning from the DHHS monitor indicating that she was unable to process it at this time, and I was kind of hoping if the court is able to put out an order that could help expedite this process.
I'm happy to include anything in my order that would assist in the process, but I would need some specific direction as to what exactly that would be. What kind of provision could I put in my order that would aid in the process?
Right now, we know she has a birth certificate, but from the email, I see that the Social Security Office wants certified copies. Certified copies to aid them in processing the number. And the monitor did say that she would be trying to get those things in place, but she also did ask myself and the adoption worker to step in. So I just thought it prudent to bring it up to the court.
I will include in my order that all parties shall cooperate in obtaining a social security number for Kingsley.
Judge, what's the problem is that the clerk's office and all clerk's offices keep birth certificates under a vault and lock and key. Typically, even a father cannot go get a birth certificate because of the potential for fraud. All you need is a birth certificate to go down a real bad road. So I think that something in the order needs to be put forth that and it's probably the Wayne County Clerk's office that where Kingsley was born, which won't probably help much, but that DHHS has care and control of this minor child and is authorized to obtain a birth certificate for Kingsley. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to release it.
I'll include in my order language the DHHS is authorized to obtain a certified copy of Kingsley's birth certificate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I guess it's a little surprising to me that there's even a question here. Shouldn't the agency is in the place of a parent right now as a result of termination of parental rights. I can't understand why any clerk's office would not simply recognize that the person in the place of the parent has the same authority that the parent would have.
But you run into a frontline clerk worker who is admonished that you don't give out a birth certificate essentially for any reason because it leads down the wrong path. So I can see that happening.
All right. Well, in any event, I've included the language in my order. We will set our next review hearing for June 29th at 9 a.m. And hopefully by then we'll have some clearer direction as to how things will be progressing. Anything else to add to the reports?
No, Judge.
All right. Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
June 29th, 9 a.m. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our post terms. And let's see, next up is statutory review hearing for Sophia Tabor. And let's see, we've got, well, you know what? I'm just going to let everyone who's on this file identify themselves for the record since I've got everybody in the courtroom.
Haley Tucker here on behalf of the agency.
Beth Tennant with Family Service and Children's Aid.
Rebecca McCluskey for Bailey Tabor.
And I see we've got a Bailey Roberts logged in. Is that?
No, it should be Bailey Tabor.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I see you now. Bailey Tabor is also present. Anyone else present on this matter who hasn't already identified themselves? Okay, Mr. Kelly, how's Sophia doing?
Doing well, Your Honor. I have no concerns there after speaking with placement. I did have a question in regards to the court report. It does identify Mr. Witherspoon now is been made legal. I wasn't too clear. Is it my understanding he is in prison until 2026? And if that's the case, will he be made a respondent because of that or not?
Yes. So once we receive confirmation, yes, he will be incarcerated until 2026. That is his projected release time. And the agency does intend to file a petition to make him a respondent once we receive confirmation that the affidavit was filed. So that is the agency's plan.
Okay. Is there a reason you're waiting for it to be filed?
I'm sorry, you cut out. I didn't hear the first part of your
What's the
question.
reason why you're waiting for it to be filed if it was appropriately executed by the parties?
We just wanted to make sure that it was appropriately filed, that there were no mistakes with it, to make sure that he is actually legally the father before adding him to the petition.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything else to add to your report?
Yes, I did want to update the court that I found out last night that Miss Tabor was transferred to Hope House in Hillsdale. So her case manager reports that she is ordered to be there for 90 to 120 days. And then after that, she would be ordered to participate in outpatient services in a recovery housing called Jane's Place that's also in Hillsdale. So that is her new current placement. That's all.
And who's counsel for Ms. Tabor?
That would be me, Your Honor, Rebecca.
Any comments on the recommendations?
Just a couple. Ms. Tabor, it was difficult to contact her, obviously, before she was incarcerated. So number one, I would just ask her to make sure there's a release signed at her current inpatient treatment so I can actually reach her. I did receive some written communication from Ms. Tabor. It sounds like she would like to request that Sophia be placed with, it sounds like a grandmother. So last name Witherspoon. So I'm guessing that might be the paternal grandmother now that the father is legal. So I would just ask that Ms. Tennant, I guess we're requesting a home study if it's not already been done, and I'll touch base with Ms. Tennant, but I just got this information. So I just make note of that. And then I would just let Ms. Tabor know I did receive the other communication, and I'll get a hold of her as soon as there's a release signed so we can discuss placement. I reviewed the report. I have no objection to the recommendations. They seem standard. I would just request, of course, as always, that there's nothing doubled up. So as much as we can coordinate with whatever probation services are going on, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm guessing, Ms. Tennant, based upon the length of time that Sophia has been in foster care placement, a change in placement at this time would require the consent of the foster placement. Otherwise, there's a process to follow before the placement could be changed against their wishes. Have you communicated with current placement about this possibility?
I have been in contact with placement, just keeping them up to date on kind of where we're at with paternity and looking into potential relatives. Once I've necessarily asked for their consent, I've just let them know that we would be required per policy to look into any relatives that come up as they come up. So,
well, when the placement has been in place for, and I can't recall the time period off the top of my head, although an initial placement with the relative is definitely per policy preferred. When that has been delayed significantly and the child has been in placement with foster parents, there's some more steps that have to be followed. And if they oppose the change and you're beyond that magic date, and I don't know, Callie, do you happen to know off the top of your head what that is?
I do not, Your Honor.
I had the issue come up, it's been a couple of years now, so I don't remember. But when you're beyond whatever this time period is, it's not automatic. Before the placement change can take place, if the foster parents object, their objection has to be heard before a change takes place. So
Your Honor,
if they're in,
I believe this subject did come up when I was speaking with placement yesterday, and I know they would like to continue placement. So I would imagine they would object anyway.
so I wish I could be more specific about pointing you to the provision. It's been too long. I don't remember the name of the case where I actually looked into this myself. But there is definitely an ability for the foster parent to object. And if they do so, you got to follow the process. I think the Foster Care Review Board gets involved. I apologize. It's been too long since I looked at the issue, but make sure you follow whatever rules are in place before you would change placement. Assuming that time period has passed. And my guess is we're looking at, Sophia's been in care since July of last year. I'm certain you're past this time period. So make sure you follow the rules there. I had a question as I was looking at the psychological report. I see that there's another minor child involved in the sense that Ms. Tabor has I think it's a 9-year-old, but that child isn't under this petition. I'm assuming that's because there was no need to change placement, but what's happening there?
My understanding is that other child is under a guardianship with Bailey's mother.
Gotcha. That would explain it. I didn't see a reference to a guardianship, and this is the first indication I'd had that there was another child, so I was just curious, and that satisfies my curiosity. Thank you. Okay, so with that caveat, to make sure that foster parents' rights are recognized before there's a change in placement. Otherwise, I'm going to implement the recommendations. We'll set our next review hearing for June 22nd at 9:15. And as soon as you get confirmation of the filing of the affidavit of parentage, we need to get that amended petition in so that Mr. Witherspoon can be made a respondent, have an attorney appointed to represent him.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before I continue, I'm going to have to take another very short break. Shannon, you can take us off the record.
Actually. Way too much coffee this morning. Me too, apparently.
Okay, Shannon put us back on the record.
Okay.
Okay, next up are the Sauceda miners. Could each of you please identify yourselves for the record?
Callie Tucker here on behalf of the agency.
Michelle Arocha, foster care case manager with DHHS.
Ivan Brown on behalf of Mr. Sauceda, Dad.
Mike Kelly on behalf of the mother, Miss Taylor.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, did you call Sauceda?
Yes.
Okay, Rebecca McCluskey, guardian ad litem.
All right, do we have any parents present in this matter?
Your Honor, I know my client was going to try to sign in. She called my office earlier to try to get the Zoom information, but I was already online.
I'm here.
Are you there, Katie?
Yeah.
All right.
All right, good. So, Ms. McCluskey, how are Devin and Christopher doing?
They're doing great. No concerns, no issues from placement. And I also have no concerns. They're placed with a grandmother. I reviewed the report and I have no objection to the recommendations. Thank you.
Ms. Aroka, are there any additions or modifications of your report or recommendations?
I do actually have a couple of things to add, as I submitted the court report 2 weeks ago and I was able to have a home visit with the boys last week. So there are a couple of things that I did learn that I do need to report. The first is that an address for Matthew. Grandma, we haven't had any contact with Matthew, but grandma placement did say that she received a new address for him. I haven't been able to confirm yet, but I thought could put that on the record and provide that to his attorney, which is 234 Rosedale Place. Again, I haven't been able to confirm it, but that's what he had reported to his mom.
Could you spell the street?
Rosedale.
Rosedale, okay.
Rosedale, yes, 234 Rosedale Place.
Is that Jackson?
Yeah, it is Jackson. I looked it up on GPS. I hadn't recognized it either.
Do you have a zip code?
Did you?
No, I didn't know because I didn't know where it was. So I just pulled it up on GPS to see where it's at.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that. Okay.
So I did have two more things to add to it. On the matter of the address, we don't have an updated address for Ms. Taylor. She refuses to provide one to the agency, so we will need that to be provided. And the third thing is, after I did have my private meeting with the children last week, Devin, the 13-year-old, reported that his mother had suggested he ask the agency for permission to obtain a medical marijuana card. I guess it's just concerning where substance abuse is such a prevalent thing in this matter that we have a mother suggesting marijuana for her 13-year-old son.
That's not at all what happened.
Okay. Ms. Taylor, what is your current mailing address?
My mailing address right now is 319 Broad Street, Michigan Center, 49254.
Thank you. And Mr. Kelly or Mr. Brown, do either of you have any comments on the recommendations?
Your Honor, in regards to the recommendations, I'd have no comment. I would indicate that I had spoken with Ms. Taylor recently, and she had indicated a desire to look into if this court would be willing to enter simply a third-party custody order with paternal grandmother or consider a guardianship. These children are going to be maintaining contact with their parents. It seems like with the agency out of their lives, the complications would be significantly less. We have a 13-year-old and a soon-to-be 12-year-old at the end of the month. They will continue to have an ability to maintain contact and have a relationship with their parents. And we don't have any concerns with paternal grandmother appropriately protecting them. And I think that can be taken care of through either a third-party custody order with her or a guardianship. We would request that be considered. Thank you.
Would this case be appropriate for juvenile guardianship?
Your Honor, the concern that we have, the agency has with that at this time is that Ms. Taylor has made statements to the caregiver that her plan is to get a guardianship for the grandmother so she can just return the kids to her care. And that's what grandmother has reported to me. So at this time, she doesn't feel comfortable with just having the guardianship as there's no legal repercussions.
Can I speak? Can I say something?
Hold on a minute.
Your Honor, that statement makes absolutely no sense. The legal repercussions, I don't even know what that means. And she, again, would have a binding court order that says she has these children. My client doesn't have any intention of, okay, let's put a custody order in place and then I'm going to take my kids back. That's absurd.
Well, I was about to comment, Ms. Soroka. Under a juvenile guardianship, the juvenile guardian has virtually every right that a parent has, and no one has the ability to remove children that are placed under a juvenile guardianship any more than they could remove them from an adoptive parent.
Yeah, I do understand that. I've been trying to explain that to the grandmother, but she just felt more comfortable, and the agency felt more comfortable moving forward with a goal change to adoption at this time.
Yeah, but you didn't say that right now.
If placement desires adoption over a juvenile guardianship, I respect that desire. even if it may be misplaced in the sense of not understanding what the legal force of a juvenile guardianship is. The issue here would be ultimately whether placement would qualify for juvenile guardianship support. And I know one of the things the agency looks at in making that determination is whether or not adoption has been ruled out. And I wouldn't typically rule out adoption when the prospective guardian tells me they want to adopt.
Your Honor, what might make sense is for Ms. McCluskey to be able to talk to placement and explain to them what exactly that would look like so they can actually make an informed decision. We didn't have a goal change in the court report. It wasn't even referenced until I brought up this idea of a third-party custody or a guardianship. So I would request the court, considering we haven't had disposition, it can't be that long ago if the kids entered care in May of 2020, that we continue this on a reunification track, set it for review hearing in 90 days, and then come back and see exactly what placement's desires are.
Well, I don't necessarily have to wait 90 days for that. I mean, that's one of the things I would hear is I'm hearing best interests. And typically, if I've got a placement that's willing to be a juvenile guardian and prefers that to adoption, that's certainly something I strongly take into account in deciding whether or not termination of parental rights and the goal of adoption is in fact the proper goal in the case. I don't need to wait 90 days to find that out. I
Your
can
Honor,
find that
there
out.
is a goal change referenced in this court report. It's in the recommendation.
We're well aware of that, Ms. Aroka.
Okay.
That's why we're having the conversation right now.
Your Honor.
Mr. Kelly, would you like an opportunity to talk to your client before I have her say whatever it is she wants to say on the record?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so Ms. Taylor, because you're represented by counsel, I think it's a good idea that you talk to your attorney, express to him whatever it is that you want to express to me, and let him handle it as your attorney. So let me do that. I'm going to put you two into a breakout room.
Okay, thank you.
So just follow the instructions on your screen. You'll be able to have a private conversation with your attorney, and I'll watch for you to come back. And maybe in the meantime, I'll move on to another matter. All right, well, Mr. Kelly's on the next one, so I can't do that. Let's see, is Mr. Kelly, well, hold on, let me look at the file. Yeah, he's on Miller. Let's see. And let's see.
He is.
He's on Highland. All right, and the next Holmes matter, let me ask, We're a couple minutes early on that. I don't see that he's on that one, but is that going to be a trial, Ms. Tucker?
Your Honor, I believe it's Ms. McCluskey's intent to ask for some more time for mom's psych eval to be completed, and the agency would have no objection to that if the court grants it. As it relates to dad, I think we're ready to move forward, but I don't know if the court prefers to keep parents' trials together. I know that's how we typically do it in Judge Rapley's, but obviously this is a different ballgame.
And I can speak to that too, Your Honor. So my client just
Before you do that, because we're on the record, let me call the case. This is a matter of Zara and Destiny Holmes. Could I have each of you who are on this file identify yourself for the record?
Kelly Tucker on behalf of the agency.
No, Jade Blair, DHHS.
Matthew Hotchkiss, LGAL.
Rebecca McCluskey for Mary Sparkman.
And is Mr. Holmes a non-respondent?
He is a respondent. I'm not sure who represents him.
He's never been present. I don't believe he was ever assigned representation.
So if he never showed up and asked for an attorney, it's unlikely I would have assigned one. I don't typically do that. And let me make sure he's not here. Well, I've got everybody in, so. Wait a minute. I got two more people out there. Let me go ahead and let them in. Make sure I've got a connection. Okay, is there anyone present on the matter of Zara and Destiny Holmes?
Judge, the device labeled Mary's tablet is the mother, Mary Sparkman.
Ms. Sparkman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we now have everyone here. Ms. McCluskey, you are asking for a delay for a psych eval for your client?
Well, Your Honors, just a refresher for the court. At our last date, the agency had no objection to this. So this is one of the situations, obviously, where there's not a long history. There was some domestic violence. There's some, I wouldn't say minor issues, but the crux of the issue was the father in this case, and he has completely disappeared. I don't think the agency has a lot of concern that my client's not going to keep him away from the home and the children. But so really the other issues were some concerns with budgeting and homelessness. And my client was willingly participating with everything. So it was really my contention that this petition should be dismissed and the agency obviously can still offer services. So what we did is the short adjournment so we could get an update from the service providers. The update from both providers, Highfields, and I'm blanking on the other one, but the updates we received are positive. So my client is participating. She just changed her phone number. I just got that morning. So I was only able to have a brief conversation with her. So it sounds like one of the providers she's not participating with, but it was through no fault of her own. She only missed one weekly visit. And then I think the provider did not show up for one. And then also she was scheduled for a psychological evaluation, I believe on the 6th, and the psychologist actually had to cancel that. So she's making progress. She's engaged willingly. We just would like to give her some time and hopefully, dismiss this petition if the agency sees it appropriate and the children are at home.
Ms. Tucker, what's your pleasure?
I would be fine with adjourning to give mom a little more time. I know housing may be a potential issue as well. And so the agency wanted to make sure that she maintains stable housing and do whatever they can to help her do that. So I think an adjournment is appropriate. I'm hoping mom can get those issues addressed and we can reevaluate whether or not we want to dismiss or not.
So if I were to put this out a month, we'd have a better picture at that time whether or not it's going to be necessary to adjudicate.
I would say so, Your Honor, yes.
Shannon, could you give us a,
May 11th at 10:15.
so new date is May 11 at 10:15. And just keep us posted as we lead up to that so we know what to plan on.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And it looks like we're still waiting on Mr. Kelly. So I don't think there's anything else I can do until Mr. Kelly's back in the room. So Shannon, you can take us off the record. I'll keep the live stream and the meeting going. As soon as Mr. Kelly and his client return, we will proceed with the remaining cases this morning.
Hello? One second.
Yes, Ms. Sparkman, we're adjourning your case for a month, so we'll see what we're doing then.
Okay.
Have a good day. Okay, looks like Mr. Kelly and his client are back. Shannon, put us back on the record, please.
What?
Okay, we are back on in the matter of the Sauceda miners. Mr. Kelly?
Your Honor, I would request that we adjourn this for 2 weeks, 30 days, something like that. Because in talking with my client, it doesn't sound like the boys know what's going on. They're at an age that I think that they should be informed and have some input on whether termination should occur. It sounds like Dad was trying to log into Zoom, not only with Judge Wilson, but also with yourself. And he had difficulties, so I'm sure he'd like to speak with Mr. Brown, considering the placement is his mother. And we're only just over 8 months from adjudication. I'm not sure when disposition occurred, so we're still relatively early on in the case. 30 days isn't going to make a difference considering we have relative placement. So again, I'd request that adjournment and request that Ms. McCluskey speak with the boys as well as placement regarding what happened here this morning. Thank you.
I don't have a problem with adjourning today's hearing. Ultimately, the issue of whether I order a goal change, I will address at our adjourned date. I don't, let's look for something 3 weeks out. Ms. McCluskey, that'll give you ample time to discuss with the boys their desires with respect to having parental rights terminated versus some other guardianship. It's certainly something I would want to explore fully at a termination hearing in any event, so I don't see a harm in exploring it early. It certainly looks like we're in line for a goal change. The only question in my mind would be would the goal change be adoption, or would the goal change be a guardianship or some other form? I don't see that we're losing a lot of time here for that to happen. Mr. Brown certainly would like an opportunity to talk to his client as well. Apparently, you've not had good success in making contact with him, Mr. Brown?
That would be affirmative. But I would like to say before we complete here, I just want to make sure that one of the recommendations was to suspend parenting time. Again, I'm speechless. The children are with my client's mother. What basis would we have, or why in the world, unless it's harmful to them? I think grandmother can make a decision whether the children should see her son or not. A suspension effectively prohibits dad from coming over to mom's home. Sometimes I just don't understand these things. So I would ask the court not to implement anything like that at this time.
Well, I guess if the concern is that mom's coaching her 13-year-old on how to get a marijuana card, there might be some concern there.
I'm not talking about mom. There's no allegation like that against my client. I'm just talking, I'm addressing my client only.
I understand. Was that part of your concern, Ms. Aroka, or was it simply a routine request in connection with a request for a goal change?
Well, the concern with Matthew is, one, he just hasn't been present at all and cooperating with anything. So we have no indication that he's not under the use of substances. And he has past times where he has shown up under the influence of substances to his mother's home. But beyond that, the boys, specifically Christopher, has stated to myself and a previous worker that he feels as though his dad is doing absolutely nothing to get him back. So we feel that the constant worry about whether his dad is coming into his life or not is not beneficial to wondering if he's going to have visits with him or not.
At this point, I'm not going to suspend either parent's parenting time. I will certainly caution, and I think if grandma is the one who's supervising, that if there's any inappropriate conversation, visits need to end immediately. Anything that's going to cause the children to be upset, or anything that's being told to them that's obviously not in their best interest. Ultimately, we're looking at grandma as some form of permanent placement for the children, whether it's as adoptive parent or as a guardian. So if we don't trust her to supervise the interactions between the children and their parents, we shouldn't be considering her for permanent placement. So I'm not going to suspend the parenting time. I'm going to simply delay a decision on the request for 3 weeks in order to give a full opportunity to explore the boy's desires and for conversations with placement so that she understands the difference between adoption and juvenile guardianship. Shannon, what would be our date 3 weeks from today?
It would be May 4th at 9:30.
May 4th at 9:30. The current order that was in place as of our last review hearing will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, next up, Williamson and Dowell minors. Could each of you please identify yourselves for the record?
Haley Tucker here on behalf of the agency.
Chelsea Kirkpatrick, foster care worker.
Ivan Brown on behalf of Ashley Dowell, mother.
Mike Kelly, guardian ad litem.
Rebecca McCluskey for Brady Dowell.
And mother, Ashley Dowell, is also present. Mr. Kelly, how are these children doing?
They're doing well. I spoke with mom. She had the kids returned to her back in February. She's doing well. She advised me that she had mailed her forms into the clerk's office to commence her divorce here in Jackson County back in January of 2021. She hasn't heard anything yet. I'm wondering if the court could possibly pull up to see if one has actually been filed or if there's a status that can be provided. As she indicated, she again has mailed those forms in. I have no objection to the recommendations.
Give me just a moment. I'll see if I can pull up something. Nothing's been filed.
Okay.
Okay, and the recommendation today is that the children continue home with mom, that upon completion successfully of the in-home services, that an early review hearing be scheduled so that a court jurisdiction may be terminated. I mean, often what we do is we can close administratively upon a report of successful completion of FRP services. Is there a need to have a custody order in place before the court were to terminate jurisdiction?
I do believe so, yes.
Are the parents currently married, or are we just looking at a custody file?
I think they are currently married. So in the court processing their divorce, a custody order, I mean, we would need a custody order stating that Ashley had full custody of the children before we could close on our end. And I think typically that's how the court operates as well. That's my understanding.
Well, it's a little, if it's simply a custody file and a custody order, sometimes we do those just with a court order. When it involves a divorce, I mean, ideally, we would want the divorce accomplished, and I can't do that with simply issuing an order. So, refresh my memory, has there been some domestic violence in this relationship?
Yes.
So, Ms. Dowell, it's very likely that you would qualify to be represented by legal aid in obtaining a divorce. Have you tried contacting them?
I have tried, and the number that I have received for the legal aid has told me to apply online for one, and I did, and I have not received anything back or heard anything back from them.
I see. That's what you're waiting on. I don't have a phone number, but I know that's their primary criterion that they use is if you've been a victim of domestic violence, they will typically undertake that representation. It may be that they're just super busy right now. I guess what I would suggest to you is that you try again. And if they ask you, has there been any domestic violence? You absolutely need to tell them there has been, because that's the major criteria that they look at in determining whether they're going to undertake your representation. And there's also financial constraints. If they believe you're able to hire your own attorney, they wouldn't represent you either. But I'm assuming you have some limited financial means at this point.
Correct.
I would just strongly encourage you to do that again. I will. I think the recommendations are appropriate.
Judge, I didn't get
will
a chance to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. Go ahead.
For the most part, and I'm glad this should be a short-lived case. If we're only requesting 45 days, I just want to remind the court that Mr. Dowell, Miss Dowell has no idea where he is. He has not been around in over a year. The chances of him showing up and trying to take the children are slim to none. I don't think there's a requirement that there be a custody order or divorce in this case. And another thing, that the recommendations, although they're not in and of themselves horrible, they're just so confusing because they lump Ashley and Brady together. 90% of the things that are requested, she's already completed. Shall participate and benefit in domestic violence classes and therapy. She's done that. Participate in psychological, that's been done. Participate in obtain and maintain housing, that's done. Maintain employment and obtain, done. And the other issue is she shall comply with any reasonable request of the agency. We can't put that in there. Reasonableness is in the eye of the beholder. That's just, I don't want to belabor this, but they have to be a little more specific and defined than the recommendations that are laid out here. They're just too broad.
I could easily update them to reflect those things that she's already accomplished, if that's your concern.
Yeah, and she shall abide by all reasonable request of the department. That's just giving way too much discretion.
So I'll modify the the recommendations to reflect your concern here today, to make sure that they appropriately reflect the current circumstance. I can actually enter a custody order without entering a divorce judgment. Certainly that's possible. But I'm assuming that Ms. Dowell is going to want to be divorced from this man, so that if and when she meets someone else, she has the ability to remarry. So it certainly behooves her, if she can initiate a divorce action, to do that. But if we come back in 6 weeks and she's successfully completed FRP services, and there are no new concerns, my full expectation is at that point I'd probably enter a custody order, initiate a custody file, and leave it to her whether or not at some point she wants to pursue a divorce.
Is there any way that we can check with the clerk's office to see if her divorce is sitting on somebody's desk? I'm sure that my client filed an affidavit for waiver of fees, and that requires something a little more. Is there any way to manually check, since nobody can get into the courthouse, to see if it's sitting on someone's desk?
I can't imagine it would be sitting on anyone's desk. If it's properly filed, it would be processed. What I heard your client say is the application she made was through legal services, and that's what she hasn't heard back on. Did I understand you correct, Ms. Dowell?
Yes.
So the clerk's office wouldn't have
it. Mailed the divorce judgment or the divorce to the clerk's office. Is that not correct?
No, I went through the legal aid.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I will set an early review hearing May 25th at 9:15. Again, the anticipation would be that if FRP services have been successfully completed, at that point, I'll simply initiate a custody order. Obviously, it won't involve a divorce, but it will clearly give mom sole legal and physical custody of these children. And I will modify the recommendations based on your comments, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
So May 25th at 9:15.
Thank you.
Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
On the Highland Allard matter, I have not received a termination petition. Has one been filed?
It was filed yesterday. The clerk's office was very slow in getting it sent back to us with the time-stamped copy. I did send it out probably 20 minutes ago because the clerk's office just got it to us. So
Okay.
if you need me to resend it, I can, but you should have it in your inbox.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep, sorry about that.
No, you don't run the clerk's office.
True, very true.
Hey, Ivan, I've got it too. I can send it to you.
Well, if Callie just sent it, that's all I need.
Okay.
I will print it tomorrow.
Okay, Darnell Miller.
Oops, I'm sorry. I gave you the.
That's all right. I
Okay.
put it in the file. Could each of you on this file identify yourself for the record?
Ellie Tucker here on behalf of the agency.
Bailey Roberts, foster care case manager with DHHS.
Rebecca McCluskey, guardian ad litem.
Mike Kelly on behalf of Adoptive Placement, Miss Miller, who I believe is also online.
And that's Ms. Heather Miller.
Yes, Your Honor. For the court's information, I did not receive a report for today's hearing. If it's not lengthy, I could probably review it pretty quick in a breakout room with my client, unless she's gotten one, but I did not receive one.
I will forward that to you, Mike. I apologize.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're waiting for Mr. Kelly to get the report and review it, Ms. McCluskey, how's Darnell doing?
Your Honor, I've reached out via email and phone call to both Darnell's caseworker and therapist, and I have not gotten any return communication. So I was not able to check in on him. I think the agency recently gave me that contact info. I assume it hasn't changed. Of course, if it has changed in the last month or so, I would need updated contact info, but I did review the report and I have no objection to the recommendations. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, just let us know when you're ready to proceed.
Your Honor, could I be put in a breakout room with my client to go over this pretty quick?
Certainly.
Thank you.
So Ms. Miller, just follow the instructions on your screen.
Yes, sir.
All right, and Mike's on the next case too, so let's, I'm gonna take a short break. You can take us off the record. Morning, Peter.
Morning. Hey, Peter.
How you doing?
See, it hasn't been too bad.
Working out tonight?
Yes. Yes, I'm excited about it.
With Kevin?
Yes.
Cool.
was class?
Good.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was hard today.
Oh, that's not good.
Brain hurts already.
Peter, if I were you, I'd drink beer every single day. With all that. What was the class this morning?
Secure transactions. So it's like interest in personal property. For instance, when can they repossess your car if you don't make the payments on it? That sort of stuff.
Oh, wow.
The live stream is still going.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Did I don't think oh. Thanks, Judge.
I thought you knew.
I didn't.
What are we waiting on, Shannon? I just stepped away a second.
We're waiting on the honorable one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, we're waiting for Mike to come back.
Is Mike back?
No, he's not.
Yeah, we're waiting for Mike.
We're waiting for Mike, not Judge. My bad. Did you hear me, Ivan?
I did. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Does he get put back into your waiting room?
He can bring himself out of there.
He can, okay, so he'll be on the screen.
Right, no, he doesn't go back in the waiting room. He's
Okay.
in a breakout room.
Okay.
So as soon as he and his client exit the breakout room, they should appear on the
Yeah,
screen.
I'll let you know.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. This item. You know that he does not have to log into court on Thursday. His matter is dismissed because he hasn't gotten any further trouble. So you're all done. Well, good. He is all done. You're welcome. You have a good week.
Hello? Hello? No, I'm still in the computer on my phone.
Okay, Shannon, you can put us back on. Okay, we are back on the record in the matter of Darnell Miller. Mr. Kelly, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for that opportunity to speak with my client. Unless there's
You're
an
welcome.
update from Bailey, I'm ready to comment on the recommendations. I don't know if she has an update or not.
Hold on, well, I've got Ms. Roberts signed in twice, so.
Yeah, my
Can you?
device I'm using might die, Your Honor. So just in case, I've got my laptop ready too. The only update that I have is that we received the trauma assessment, but we're still waiting to have a meeting with the doctor who did the assessment so we can all discuss the findings.
So are there any objections to the recommendations?
Your Honor, I'd indicate to the court we do not have any objections to the recommendations, but I would provide a court an update. If the court recalls, the reason we ultimately ended up before Your Honor was because of Darnell being charged with essentially assaulting another child that was in placement, Zoe. Apparently, as recently as last week, something has come up where there's an ongoing investigation where he might have done a similar thing to another child that is within the home. That's an investigation that's currently underway. So hopefully we'll have those results by the time we come back before the court. We would request, if it wasn't a component of the CTAC assessment, that Darnell get a psychological evaluation. I don't believe he's ever had one. He had a competency exam done for those charges that he had against Zoe, where he's found not competent in trial. That's why we ended up before Your Honor. If the CTAC assessment didn't cover that, we would request that that be conducted as well. I think as much information as everyone can have, it would be pertinent at this point in time. Thank you.
Has the CTAC assessment taken place?
Yes. As far as I'm aware, Your Honor, the court report indicates it has.
I guess it would be helpful, Ms. Roberts, if once we get a report, if you could inquire of CTAC whether or not they would recommend a full psychological assessment.
Yes,
They're probably going to be in a good position to know whether or not that's warranted under the circumstances. All right. Well, I will be implementing the recommendations then. We will set our next review hearing for June 29th at 9:15. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, and let's see, that brings us to Allard Highland Miners. Could everyone present on this matter please identify themselves for the record?
Kelly Tucker here on behalf of the agency.
Lindsay Cooling on behalf of Jackson County DHHS, Foster Care Case Manager.
Matthew Hotchkiss, LGAL.
Ivan Brown on behalf of Dustin Highland.
Mike Kelly on behalf of Ms. Patrick. Ms. Patrick is present with Flint Odyssey House, Your Honor.
Yes, I see that. Thank you. And I see we have an Eduardo. Anybody know who that is? All right, he might just be in the wrong place. Okay, this was scheduled today for receipt of a termination petition. The court is in receipt of a petition. Has everyone else received a copy of it?
I've been apprised that it's been sent to me. I haven't been able to look on my email because we've been in court, but I'll just trust that it's there.
I have received it, Your Honor.
The court will schedule this matter for a termination hearing on Tuesday, May 18th at 1:15. Is there anything else the court needs to address on the record today?
Your Honor,
Thank you.
I have two things to quickly address. First of all, given that we did file a termination petition, the agency would request suspension of parenting time pending the termination trial. And then secondly, I know the court already gave the date of May 18th. And if that's what works best for the court, that's fine. I just wanted to let the court be aware that Ms. Cooling is going on medical leave on May 4th. So she did request that we hold this termination trial as soon as possible. But I think any time before that, we would run into notice issues. So I just wanted to let that be known.
Well, if that's a bad day for her, we certainly want to respect any party's medical issues.
Well, I think she's going to be out for quite some time. So if the court can't schedule it before May 4th, then we'll just proceed with her supervisor stepping in her place. I just wanted the court to be aware, as well as the other attorneys, that it likely won't be Ms. Cooling testifying.
Yeah, I don't know how realistically we could do it. It's sooner than then.
Yeah, and like I said, that's fine. I just wanted everyone to be aware it may not be her testifying if the date is past May 4th.
All right. Well, let me ask. I mean, that's obviously not far away.
Your Honor, I was also going to be talking with Ms. Patrick about her right to have since this is requesting termination of parental rights, her right to have an in-person hearing, or whether she'd want to do that over Zoom. I'll have that conversation with her later today, probably. So that's another factor to take into consideration, considering I think we're back to phase 2 at the courthouse, and the rumblings through the state, it sounds like they want to roll back restrictions even more. Doing it any earlier than May 18th is probably not realistic under those circumstances.
All right. Well, I won't try to look for an earlier date. Let's talk about the request for suspension of visits.
Your Honor, we went through this ad nauseum for an hour last time, and the court suspended parenting time as to one child, but not the others. Nothing's changed. I don't know why we need to go through another hour of bickering back and forth when nothing's changed and the court's already made its ruling.
I would concur, Your Honor. You've already suspended it as to Garrett, Haley, and Dustin. They're so young. Mom is consistent with her parenting time, is appropriate during her parenting time. There's just simply not grounds to suspend. And again, as Mr. Brown indicated, we've been through this multiple times before, and the court has consistently denied that request, and we'd request you do the same today. Thank you.
So, Ms. Tucker, has anything changed since the last hearing on this issue?
Your Honor, I obviously the court knows I was not present at the last hearing to hear all of the details that were discussed on that day. I guess I would refer to Ms. Cooling to know if there has been any change in circumstances. My thoughts are that given that we did now file a termination petition, that asking for suspension of parenting time is standard practice. But again, I would ask for Ms. Cooling to comment on any specifics.
Ms. Cooling, do you have anything new to bring to this issue?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. We have seen a lot of regression in Haley Highland since continuing these phone calls and Zoom calls. The agency is just concerned that Haley keeps having almost meltdowns during these calls where she's crying, she doesn't want to participate. And with us filing the petition, the agency is just asking that parenting time be suspended.
Your Honor, we don't know if that's her having a meltdown by seeing her mother and wanting to be with her. We're just speculating at this point in time. And if Miss Patrick would want to comment about how the visits have gone, because it's my understanding this worker hasn't even been supervising a majority of them. Her and her worker there at Flint Odyssey House. I'd welcome Miss Patrick to make a comment on what she sees as any types of meltdowns with her children when she's on Zoom with them.
If indeed Haley is not at handling the visits well, that's certainly something I want to know about. Regardless of what the underlying reason is, if it's being prompted by the visit, then we need to address that. So I'm happy to hear from Ms. Patrick as to her perspective on Haley.
Yes, Your Honor. Visits are going kind of a little bit rocky. Again, they are 3 and 2, and they are with my mom. They have been fighting quite a bit, and it's not properly being addressed. In front of my mom, there's been hitting and screaming between the 2 of the children. Actually, last night's visit, Haley was crying. She did not want to get off of Zoom. She did not want to tell me goodbye. It is a little hard to engage her. My mom does sit there on the phone, and it's me trying to say, Haley, Haley Shay, and my mom doesn't want to really get Haley, try to help me engage, because again, they are children. As of yesterday, I did address my warrant, so I no longer have a warrant for my arrest, if that has any validity to anything. In-person visits would benefit tremendously because they are babies, and Zoom,
Your Honor, I'm Ms. Patrick's therapist, and I have had an opportunity to observe some of the visitations, both phone call and Zoom. Ms. Patrick has tried to read to the children and engage with them. She has also redirected them and tried to play games. However, I'm interested, Ms. Cooling is generally not visible in the visits. And she is not redirecting any of the negative behaviors in my observation and from the information that I receive from the people who are observing these visits. And it is difficult to engage children at that age via technology, but Ms. Patrick makes her best effort. And the children, when engaged, are very, there's a connection, you can see the bond. So I think that any disruption in that would be detrimental. But additionally, I think that Ms. Cooling has offered to initiate in-person visitation, and knowing that she was going to file this termination petition, she offered it up to just a few weeks ago, and then now we're going to completely remove them. In addition, in yesterday's visit, Ms. Cooling told the children that they would see their mom later. Why would we tell the children that just yesterday if we're going to move to terminate parenting time now?
Ms. Cooling, are you the one who supervises these visits?
Yes, Your Honor, I do supervise the visits, and I do put my video on mute, because if I don't, the children often are only interacting with me. I do try to get the children to interact. However, like everyone has stated, it is very hard to get a 1 and 3-year-old to interact when I'm not there in person with them to encourage that behavior. And again, I will state Haley is having, sorry, go ahead.
Who is there in person? Placement?
Placement, yes. So the children are on video at Placement's home. I'm on my computer at my home, and then Miss Patrick is at Odyssey House. So there's 3 different entities essentially coming together to make these occur. And again, I just want to state that, yes, Haley last night was upset with ending the phone call, but in all the past occurrences, it's a constant battle between the two children. They're crying, they're fighting, and this is not an uncommon thing. This is just how the children interact, unfortunately. The agency has made a referral for infant mental health services for Haley due to these ongoing behaviors. We're seeing these breakdowns. She's regressed. She started having accidents again. So the agency is concerned about these behaviors, and placement has indicated that they're seeing them directly after these phone calls or Zooms are occurring.
Mr. Hotchkiss, do you want to weigh into this issue?
Sure, Your Honor. I had an opportunity to speak with placement earlier. It's their position. It's a pretty strong position that they are in favor of the suspension of the parenting time. There's observation made after phone conversations with the mom that they exhibit some behaviors that are disturbing or somehow bothersome, and it seems to really have an impact on these kids. I certainly understand the perspective of wanting to engage with them, and they're 1 and 3. I take note that that's very difficult to do. I mean, sometimes even in person, let alone trying to do it via Zoom or via phone call. It's difficult to parent that way. However, the trajectory of this case has been such that it appears that there hasn't been a lot of activity with these children to begin with. The road to recovery is going to be a long road. It's going to continue to be a long road. And I don't see any indication that we won't be right back here. I don't see a substantial amount of improvement, and that's indicative of the agency filing its termination petition. What I don't want to see is that these kids suffer any more from a lack of permanency and that they have this going back and forth. I think that's detrimental to them at their young age. And so I would obviously defer to the court and allow its discretion. I think that's appropriate, but my recommendation would be to suspend the parenting time. Thank you.
Your Honor, it sounds like the difficulty is the Zoom. If the worker was going to offer in-person parenting time, then let's do that and see how the parenting time goes. If they can have that direct contact with their mother, I think you're likely to see an entirely different result. Again, you're asking a lot for children of that age to behave over Zoom. I mean, if you take a look at how Zoom is going for some kids in school, kids that are older than that are having a difficult time maintaining focus or maintaining their attention. So for kids a lot younger than school-age children having that problem, maybe we should be doing in-person parenting time like that was offered. Thank you.
Very briefly, Your Honor, I think I could see Mr. Kelly's point. However, I would state that the issue is not so much just Zoom, although it makes it difficult. I would say that it's the interaction with the mother at this stage. And so in person could result in even more detrimental and more severe issues with those minor children. And that's not something that we want to see. So I would still recommend the suspension of parenting time, although I do take Mr. Kelly's point well there.
All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to order parenting time suspended. However, I am going to give the agency broad discretion to terminate any visit if the children or child are clearly becoming upset as a result of the visit. The visit can end. It doesn't have to be prolonged if the child is not responding well to the visit. So we'll just have that handled on a visit by visit case.
Your Honor,
in the meantime,
can we have discretion for in-person parenting time? The big issue there was mom had an outstanding warrant. That's been taken care of. She's been ordered to treatment for 6 months by Judge McBain, so we have no concerns with her being arrested parenting time. Can we have the in-person parenting time to see exactly how that goes? I think these children at that age would respond a heck of a lot better than continuing with this severe.
I have no problem giving discretion for in-person parenting time.
Thank you.
Okay, our next date then is May 18th at 1:15.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I think that concludes our morning. Am I right?